Hello everybody and welcome to week number 5 of the Quake Pro League, where if it isn't immediately obvious, it's going to be quite a festive day. My name is Ketchup and it's my pleasure once again to be joined on the desk by the one and only and the very talented Flea. Hey mate, nice hat.
Thank you. I'm loving it. I'm loving the entire Christmas aesthetic that we've got going on here. Everyone's in the mood for some holiday Quake, I feel like.
My hat is already making this thing.
Yeah.
It's normally like to break kayfabe, you've got to put this behind your back, you see, so that the wire's not there, but the hat is making it difficult. I've got one of these for you, mate.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
We didn't realise these must be a UK thing, a Christmas cracker. And we're going to start the day by seeing who wins this 50-50. For those that don't know, you grab it both ends and you pull it, there's a bang, and then someone gets whatever exists in here. So let's do
treasure.
it. On the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Yes, he won the practice one. We've already done one already. But I'm gonna get this to one side. I'm gonna prepare the goodies and the dad joke that's there. Yep. But back to business. This is gonna be the return once more of the Quake Pro League. We have a bunch more matches lined up, and excitingly, we have got some real, no pun intended, some crackers. Flea, some sick matches to expect.
I mean, I think some of the matches that people definitely have been looking forward to are, of course, our opener of the day. We've got toxjq going up against cypher, and those players, they've gone up against each other once before back in ESL Italy, and that was quite a one-sided match. But other than that, there's a lot more coming in today. We've got Base versus Cooler. That's another one to look out for.
Oh, absolutely. We've got the leaderboards to show you as well, so we can see what the progress has been for the journey so far. The world rankings, Rafa sitting up there pretty at first place. To always reiterate the change to round robin in stage 2, meaning everybody has to face off against everybody. Might introduce some more unexpected results, or maybe even a level of consistency. Kilson sitting just underneath that. Dahang, Vengur, Razy, Cooler, the current world champ as we're currently looking at it. And the list goes on. And I know we have got some separate rankings as well. That the stage 1 and 2 can sometimes be a little bit separated at the same time. But I think what we're seeing so far is just a nice level of who's been able to beat who, right? And I think the top dogs are definitely up there for a reason. I
mean, you can clearly see a bit of a difference between the 6th and the 7th place, right? Because above that, things are relatively close. Rafa, of course, pulling ahead a bit. Kilson, so does he. But then once you go below Cooler, there's a pretty substantial 20-point gap, followed by quite a few players that are really close to one another. You've got Saige, Base, Nosva, Hron, all really close to each other. And that kind of stays the way all the way down to the bottom of the leaderboards, meaning that these matches that we're about to see are really important, because when there's 16 points to gain every single matchup, things can change so quickly.
And what's really going to separate these players will obviously be the manner of how they win. If you're able to secure a 3-0, it's obviously going to be massively beneficial to you, because it's a combination of you getting points and your opponent getting a fat 0. Yep. So the more dominant that you are throughout these weekly periods, ultimately the better you're going to be in the long run.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Also interesting to see how our newcomers have been doing. I feel like they've been putting in some good work. If you look at cypher, you look at CNZ, especially on the EU side, those players that made it into the Pro League by means of the challenger brackets, I mean, they've really been performing pretty decently.
And then we also have got some other players like Hron, for example, who had quite a, with all due respect, disastrous stage 1 during the weeklies, and he's been kind of, straight off the starting line in stage 2 and looking a lot better than he did, kind of almost like he saw it as his wake-up call, where there's going to be a lot more talent existing in this realm. You have to remember, the Americas and EU/CIS, they are separated, even though we have got a mix and match throughout the course of the weeklies now, which is another change from stage 1. But that hasn't stopped the talent in EU and CIS from being an absolute bloodbath, where every match you can expect to encounter is going to be a very difficult one.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth, and you can see it in the scores once again, how close they are. There's some of the new players that are really up and coming. They're putting in some serious hits, but overall I feel like it's still really balanced, and it can literally go every single way, because if you look back towards stage 1, it was clear pretty early on who was at the serious risk of being relegated. But if you look at the leaderboards right now, it's so difficult to call at this stage, because 1 week, one player getting 0 points and another getting that fabled 16, that can make so much of a difference.
And at the same time, it's the fact that we have players in the Challenger Series that are still ongoing. Shouts to Garpy and Hell, who were able to play extremely well in yesterday's Challenger matches. And that's the thing we have to think about all the time, is that Challenger was not just a Stage 1 thing. The relegation and the threat of it is always prominent.
Yeah.
And these players that may have not had such an amazing Luca, and they were dropped down into Challenger League where they're now going to be playing, there's always the possibility that we're going to see them back in a better shape than ever. But at the same time, their opponents in Pro League have been practicing against the very best in the world on more than a weekly basis, because it's not just about your weekly games, it's about the practices and the scrims that you play behind the scenes, where a lot of players continue to play each other in the exact same respect. We should have the schedule very soon so we can see what today's juicy action is shaping up to be. We're going to be talking about the first series of the day quite a lot. It is very, very juicy indeed. Number 11 and number 12, Toxic versus Cypher, the Luca runback. We'll get into the maps and picks and all that stuff later, but you can just take a look at those icons. That first map is looking very interesting. Genic versus Nosfer, Dramis versus Waz, Wenger versus Avec.
Yeah, Avec at this point, I mean, he's really got his work cut out for him. If I'm not mistaken, he's the lowest ranked EU player as it currently stands, and I think that's not a position that anyone was expecting the Polish prince to be in. Just last year, he came into the grand finals only to go down against Rafa at DreamHack Winter, so for him to now be at the bottom and actually at a serious risk of being relegated at the end of this stage, that's a huge difference.
And at the same time, we have to remember buys exist. Not every player is going to play every week. This week, Chain, Dewey, Kilson and Hron will not be present in the weekly games, so their opportunity to get points this week. Not that it really matters too much right now. We're not going to be seeing them today. Going into the next set of matches now, we can see who's going to be going head-to-head. Rafa versus Effortless. Base versus Cooler, the Russian showdown.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in chat probably excited for that one. CNZ versus Razy. And then finishing things up with another question mark. Dahang versus Cygib. That's one that I think a lot of people are talking about.
Oh, absolutely, because if I remember correctly, going back to QuakeCon earlier this year, it was actually Cygib who beat Dahang 2-1, and that's of course quite the impressive feat that really shows how strong of a player he is. Now, coming into Stage 2, Dahang definitely has the leg up when it comes to the points and the results so far, but I'm sure that Cygib is hungry to prove his worth once again.
He's been looking absolutely fantastic in Stage 2, and I think it's definitely leaps and bounds a better performance than we saw in Stage 1. He was absolutely one of the slow starters. I don't think anyone was expecting him to have as much of a bad start as he did. But then as we were reaching, the territory of Luca, the Stage 1 finals were drawing, it was almost like a situation for Cygib to think, I need to try and step this up, because if he keeps having results like he did earlier on, it's just going to be very, very difficult for him in the LAN. And then it was like a light switch, like click, and then he's playing amazingly better than he did before. And in Stage 2, he's looked pretty solid. Yeah,
and the other game I feel like that we really should keep an eye on is Base versus Cooler, because as I mentioned earlier, the gap between Cooler and the ones below him, it's quite significant. Like I said, it's around 20 points, but 20 points really is only just that, right? If Base 3-0s Cooler today, that's 16 points to him and 0 to Cooler, and that can mean that Base can basically close that gap between that top group of players in 1 week.
And it's great for morale too.
Yeah.
The round-robin format where you have to play off against every opponent out there, that's going to be, potentially, if a 3-0 was to come through, Cooler ticked off the list.
Yeah.
Who is the player that dominantly won the Stage 1 finals. That's just great for morale, if anything, to say I've been able to take down this absolute titan, get a lot of points, and because, as you said, they're so similar in the leaderboards, it has many, many, many benefits, I think. But I think it's about time we get stuck into our first series, Cypher versus Toxic. I think we could talk about this one for a very long time. There's so much to go over, but fundamentally, this is a pretty recent runback. They went head-to-head at the Stage 1 finals, and it was a very, very, very dominant performance for Cypher. And it was quite strange. Tox has some of those days where either he turns up or he doesn't. I think it was a mixture of Cypher having a miracle day where he got respectably far in that bracket after breaking his way through challenges, by the way. And then Toxic just, it didn't really look like Toxic. It looked like a Toxic that hadn't shown up to play, and he just kind of got destroyed, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I believe it was a 2-0 in favor of Cypher. Very quick games as well. Cypher, of course, as you just mentioned, he came out of the challengers bracket, so he obviously wanted to get as many points as he possibly could going into Stage 2. And Toxic, he wasn't hitting a shot, making some strange decisions, threw away quite a few lives, being overly aggressive in my opinion. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can finally turn it around this week, or if Cypher is going to continue proving his worth.
Well, let's take a look at Toxic. There was a recent interview with him done on this very, very channel, where essentially he remarked on, I feel like I need to step it up. You know, he's very, very self-aware of his own situation, that he started to look better at the end of Stage 1, you know, back to the Toxic that we all know and love, where it's just execution through and through. His aim, when he's having a good day, is some of the absolute greatest on the planet. Right. But there are still players that, regardless of how amazing his aim is, they can still rock up and put a lid on it. You know, we saw that with Kilson, for example, where it looked a little bit like Kilson was just not expecting Tox to be as much of an animal as he was on the Blood Run pick. But then the other maps, Kilson was just being a little bit more reserved, allowing Toxic to kind of move himself into those dangerous locations where Kilson just kind of punished him and kind of played him like a fiddle. But when he has those miracle games where he's hitting everything, it demands your absolute best, because if you're not able to match his aim at the very least, he's one of the scariest people to face against in general.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also got some amazing movement when it comes to the crouch sliding in Champions, so it's not as if you can really put any distance between you and him. If he's hitting those shots, you're just on the ropes constantly, and you need to step it up. You need to do just as much damage as he is. But luckily for us, Cypher is also very well known for his rockets from Belarus and the insane amounts of damage that he can put out himself.
He's just been having a great stage, hasn't he? The guy was able to claw his way through the Challenger League, make his way into the Stage 1 finals, and actually make his way through that bracket to a very respectable degree. And as Stage 2 has began, he's just been on a bit of a tear. He's been able to take out some very, very dangerous opponents in this round robin. And, you know, a lot of people are out there probably thinking that Cypher is the favourite to win this series. It's not going to be easy, though. Yeah. I definitely do not think it's going to be as easy as it was when they clashed in Italy.
That's definitely the case. I mean, as you just mentioned, Cypher did beat Cooler, whereas Toxic has beaten Avex so far into Stage 2. So both of these players have taken out some pretty impressive names, that's for sure. And I think that this really it's a battle between some of the fan favorites, right? There's so many people who absolutely love Tox, his aim, his movements, his general demeanor, the Terminator. But then, of course, Cypher has no shortage of a flank up himself. I mean, the man is a beast, going back all the way to the days of Quake Live, where he was one of the absolute best in the world.
I'm really glad that we are now in a position, you know, speaking as someone who came onto the scene with Quake Champions, I've always said that it felt very strange how, you know, when you're researching the history and you're researching the community, because, you know, you want to do a good job and you want to take the scene very, very seriously going into the esports world of Champions at the very least. He was the name that was always there. It was, oh, Cypher, look out for this guy. You know, he was like just short of #1. Some people said he was #1. Obviously, it was a matter of opinion between him and Rafa. But it was so odd to go into Quake Champions and see him consistently in broadcasts, and he just wouldn't perform the way everyone thoroughly expected him to play. Whereas this year, the whole thing has changed, and it kind of feels like we're a couple of years late, but we're now finally in that era of Cypher, where he's able to show everyone that, look, I'm a legend, right? I'm always one of the most famous players in the world, and he's showing us completely why that's the case, and he's been looking so good in Stage 2.
I mean, just think back of his victory against Rafa. Rafa, in the eyes of many, is always this single player to beat. He is the professor, he's always 5 steps ahead, and now that he's managed to really step up his aim as well, he's such a lethal threat to every single player in the world. And Cypher beat him 3-1 coming out of Challenger, so the man absolutely is back with vengeance.
You can call that a breakout performance and a half when it comes to Quake Champions. We've got the picks and bans. We can see what everything's going to be as we load in. Blood Run is the first map, but 2 CPM champions. We've got the Anarchy and we've got the Sorlag. Slash was banned straight away, and that's so consistent with Tox. I know he even mentioned in his interview, I haven't really been practicing a lot of Slash because when I fight people, they just ban Slash in the first place, so what's the point?
I'm interested in not seeing a Strock come out of Tox, right? Because obviously Strock hasn't been banned, also a crouch sliding champion that we've seen Tox use time and time again, even on maps like Awoken, which is a place that he's relatively common on, but Tox still ended up going with the Galena there. So second map, Blood Covenant, we've got the Doomslayer versus the Visor. Doomslayer, of course, has the mobility, Visor has the information, and then the final one, Awoken, Galena versus Ison. So both players able to drop down their totems and terms alike. and that's going to make for an interesting map.
I think it's a smart ban to remove Ranger from Awoken, especially with Tox, who's not afraid to go for those kind of big plays and the combo ability that the Orb brings, especially seeing as on Awoken, Ranger is a champion that can kind of just strong-arm his way onto so many of the major pickups, because the Orb is something you kind of have to respect. If you're sitting too close to like a Mega, and he teleports into it and does the entry damage and steals it at the same time, it's basically a free frag.
Yeah.
But the champion picks, with the exception of Anarchy with Blood Run, where they've gone for identical movement, it kind of looks like Tox has gone for an element of safety. Going for Doomslayer on Blood Covenant, I mean, that's kind of a match made in heaven. The Nyx was removed for very similar reasons. That double jump ability that she gets, because there's so many walls that she can navigate, she gets very similar movement options to Doom in that respect. And Cypher, just, the tried and true visor for obvious reasons. It's a rail-heavy map. There's lots of avenues you can go down. And the piercing sight, it just makes magic happen, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. These are very interesting picks. I can't really put my finger on which one is the better. I feel like they're both really solid picks for the maps we're getting. There's no player that I'm really leaning towards and saying, yeah, this guy has the better, stronger picks for the lineup that we've got ahead of us. I think they're pretty balanced.
Anarchy was always a champion that Tox had in his back pocket.
Yeah.
The second Slash was becoming not so popular. The Anarchy was kind of on the rise. Tox was always rocking it. We would see it on maps like Awoken, because it's all about getting that speed on deck. But it's the fact that we're going into Blood Run first. Now, the strategy for Blood Run is always a very sort of reserved game.
Right.
It's about kind of scoring those first few frags and then just, using your ears and listening out for where everyone's going to be coming. And playing that defensive game, the runaway game. Sorlag is very famous for being able to apply that on Blood Run. But, back in 2017, Anarchy was all the rage for a very, very similar strategy. The fact they've got identical movement makes me think, are we going to see almost like kind of like a mirror effect in this matchup?
I mean, it's going to depend a lot on who gets the first frag. I think if the Sorlag immediately manages to get a lead, maybe 1, 2, or 3 frags, she can easily play a plus back game just because of the stack difference. Don't forget, Anarchy, he's a light champion, he's a squishy champion, and he's not going up against a medium champion that's like one step up on the ladder. No, he's going up against Sorlag. She's a thick girl, right? She's up there quite a bit more. She's got the extra stack to manage. So if Tox has to chase down Cypher on the Sorlag, that's going to be difficult for him.
I feel like a lot of his movement's going to be based around trying to get in and out as much as possible. You don't want to be point blank against a Sorlag, especially one with an LG like Cypher's, and the fact that if you get caught in, between a rock and a hard place and she's got that spit ready to go, you're combining amazing aim and accuracy and just shred ability with Cypher, and then you've got the acid spit to boot, and the fact that if he's got control, he can naturally just keep a massive stack that Anarchy can't really contend with. So I think there's going to be a lot of these Tox having to be aware as often as possible. If he goes around a corner and sees Cypher, like, we're going to just get straight out of there immediately, no questions asked.
He's going to have to take a lot of pot shots, right? Just do a lot of damage with the rail, maybe land some good rockets, find an LG damage on a bounce pad or something like that, and then when the time is right, he's got that injection, he's got the speed boosted, and he can close the gap pretty quickly, get in Cypher's face, and make something happen. I think that's one of the things we can look out for in this game.
But I'm looking at Blood Run, I'm looking at the map, and we saw Tox on this map before against Kilson, and it was extremely advantageous for the Terminator. But we're loading into our first map of the day, Toxic, going up against Cypher. Observing Toxic first, he's able to get himself a heavy. He's now going to pepper down a little bit of bonus damage to try and delete some of that mega stack, but look at Cypher's stack, there's plenty of it left.
Yeah, a little bit of a delay between the two major items, around 2-3 seconds, so Heavy will be up first, being that if Toxic or Cypher can secure Heavy and do a little bit of damage beforehand, they have a really good shot at not only getting the armor, but also going for the health as well. Here we're getting our first engagement, no damage done just yet, but that's a huge rocket coming out of Toxic. Can he find some more damage? That rail will connect, one more will do it, and nice little flick. 1-0.
Perfectly timed. As now he's going to take the Mega. Cypher trying to sort of force his way down, but there really is nothing. Oh no! There was nothing he could do to stop the Heavy, but Tox with a extremely unfortunate mistime has to make sure he goes in, but he's going to get comboed by that rail from Cypher. Tox, that one failed rocket jump has put him in such harm's way, but the super shotgun scoring a second frag, and there's a decent amount of stack to replenish in the power-up room.
Yeah. I mean, I said at the start, right, Sorlag, she's got a lot of stack, but she's also a bit of a thick girl. Those shotgun bullets, they're going to connect. They're going to do a whole lot to her. Cypher this time around, though, taking the Mega Health and landing a rail as well. Toxic on life support, has to get out of there, and he's going to use the injection to get that speed maneuver out of the room. Doesn't look like Cypher will be able to track him down just yet. Heavy is up and waiting.
It's because he only just recently collected stack from this room. He's got to wait a significant amount of time before the light comes back. In doing so, he's had no choice but to concede that Heavy, and we always go back to that stack. It's so insanely strong now for Cypher. This Mega becomes a bit of a question mark. You know, is Tox interested? No, he's not even interested in trying to take it. He knows he's got the frag advantage. No need to overextend. A frag advantage on Blood Run, even one frag can be, you know, times 100 if you play your cards right.
Very true. Also, something we haven't really touched upon, and we'll probably talk about more after this game, because look at that! Cypher instantly turns it around. 2 good rockets into a rail, and he's just instantly turning things around. He might get stocks once again. The backwards movement getting stuck on the doorway, but he does slip out of the room alive.
Very risky to try and fight for this Mega, and it's no wonder Tox just let it rip. The danger he's going to have is that Cypher is not going to be short of the speed to chase him down. And we did see that fight, and Tox was the one that was scored first blood, that initial opening rocket. Cypher kind of laughing at it as he's going to just return fire, hits a rail, and just like that, Tox, without armor, he's only able to tank 2 rails. And with the accuracy Cypher's had, so that's why he's going so aggressive so far. He's really trying to shut down as much as possible. His stack has been way above Toxic's the entire time. But we cannot forget, Tox has the frag advantage. He's going to be the one commanding this pace until Cypher's able to take the lead. Tox having to go for these pot shots, but the risk he's always going to face is that he puts himself within shootable range. It's a matter of trying to get the shot on Cypher and make sure it's not returned.
Yeah. And Cypher is actually doing a really good job at just constantly trading the damage. Every single time that Tox hits him, he manages to do some damage back. And in just that situation that we saw a moment ago, he takes a rail, but he lands one of his own, and then Toxic is left with barely anything to his name, whereas Cypher, obviously playing a Sorlak, has got so much more to work with, doing some self-damage to even deny that small armor to his opponent. And he's looking so solid right now. Just look at the stack difference at the top of the screen.
And he's going crazy aggressive because he has strong reason to believe that Tox is still going to be in that room. You know, I've just denied the light. Tox is probably aware of that, to be honest. So you're kind of like forcing Toxic to stay within that half of the map, which keeps a higher level of control on it. You know, you can hit those angles, try and spring a trap potentially with the acid. That tri-bolt definitely hurt, and Cypher knows there's no armor for him to collect. So if he can be really aggressive now, which he is going to be, has hit the rail but has no choice but to shoot through the smoke. No vision there, and he misses the shot. But once more, Tox, he's so far behind in stack. He knows he's taken the light, but that's the only one he's going to get for a while. If he can win this fight, which he's likely to be able to do now.
It's actually really good that Cypher managed to get that top green by exchanging positions and rotating around, because that means that it's still around 20 seconds before that top armor is going to respawn, and Toxic has got nothing in terms of armor to work with. Doing some decent rocket damage though. The spit will connect, but there will be bubbles around for him to instantly shake that off.
That was definitely an important rocket to land. Looked like it hit direct, which put Cypher far enough back that I don't think he was super comfortable going in for that fight. Even with no armor, if Tox just hits these miracle shots and Cypher, you know, dare I say, misses anything, there was still a chance he was going to go down there. That is going to shift quite heavily now. No pun intended, as Heavy's going to get collected. Lovely rocket jump from Cypher. Almost springing the trap on Tox, but he's ready for it. That's where this movement comes into play. Aniki's ability to just get in and out as quickly as possible thanks to his passive of the movement. But 5-minute warning. Although it looks like Cypher's able to look quite comfortable with the stack that he's working on, Tox is the one that has the advantage in stacking. Dare I say, maybe sticking around too long. And the acid, wonderful rail.
Risky confrontation still. Cypher was down to just 11 points of health. That could easily have gone the other way as well. And
oh God!
How?
Merry Christmas, everybody!
I was about to say Cypher probably shouldn't have delayed that rocket jump up, and then he takes one little gander over the edge, and bam! Rocket to the face. Toxic, after things being tied up once again, just instantly putting himself another frag in the lead, and Cypher back on the chase.
I feel like that's a moment where your parents go, "Damn it, Cypher, what did I tell you about sticking your hand through a window? Shut the window, or we'll stop in the car." Alright, he's going in. Tox looking to pepper down some more damage. That's just such a tragic rocket for Cypher to get hit for, because it was at even the odds. He was in such a wonderful position. Tox had just spawned, but Tox choosing to be aggressive on re-entry. He knows he did a ton of damage, and he just hit that wonderful rocket that just seems to cause him to have to do all this work all over again. That rail, surprisingly, is going to miss, but Tox He's not even going to connect the Mega. He wants to get this frag first and then double back. Unfortunately, not quite able to land it. But he knows that Cypher is still going to be pretty weak.
Yeah, and that was a really smart decision from Tox, leaving the Mega up. Because even if he would have gone up and taken a lot of damage, he still had that huge health pool behind him ready to stack right back up. So say he went up the bounce pad and took a rail, no biggie, I'm just going to drop right back down and I'm going to collect this Mega health. So clever plays from the Swede right here. A little over 3 minutes left on the clock. LG on LG. Cypher knows he's outstacked. Can he get out of the room unharmed? Relatively so.
Yeah, we can't forget that there's plenty of time left in this map for Cypher to make something happen. It's clearly been established that Tox is not able to simply just play this runaway game and be hyper-defensive yet. Cypher's always going to be able to both get a good read on where he's going to be going, and also Cypher's item control and the items he was collecting, forcing Tox into specific areas of the map. Got that word out eventually, but now we have less than 3 minutes left. Tox now is the one with a fat stack. Oh my, that tribal certainly did more than tickle.
I mean, a full-on tribal that can do a lot more than just a rocket to the face even, so Toxic safeguarding his position a bit longer, and this is something you see on Blood Run all the time. One player will just have control for such a long portion of the map. Cypher jumps in, manages to steal the Mega on time. Rocket won't do enough damage as he will fall again. 2-4, Toxic extending his lead. The push from Cypher, it was daring. He did manage to get the Mega health, but unfortunately that Rocket just didn't do enough damage. And again, the tribal out of nowhere.
That Tribolt did a great job of dealing with some of that damage. Cypher, the benefit of having one of those heavier champions, but he falls for the trap! Going straight through that, and Cypher ready to react accordingly. He's just brought himself another fighting chance. We have got less than 2 minutes now, but he's nice and aggressive. Oh, misses that rail. Realistically, he needs to start hitting those shots. I know they're not easy, but when there's not a lot of time left, any damage will count.
Especially because missing that meant that Tox could get away with essentially a full Mega. That's a good little combo from Cypher. They're gonna duke it out with the LG. He's gonna peek with the shoddy. Tox, just a few points of health. I think that shotgun would have almost guaranteed taken out his opponent right there, but of course we have got the extra, we've got the exact health and armor counts and the players don't.
Oh, that shot! Cypher, that's a heartbreaker. Again, right there. If he hit that rail, he would have denied it. And then actually maybe he'll collect the heavy himself. Tox actually overextending his welcome just a bit there. He's taking a lot of damage. Oh! Cypher gets the shot! And I feel like Tox has kind of let this slip through his fingers a little bit.
Yeah. Toxic once again tied up, and Cypher, is he going to be able to chase him down? That's so much rocket damage! Gets bounced into the air and finished off. The spit will still connect, but that'll instantly get taken away. Cypher, hyper aggressive right now. The machine gun, so much damage, 2 points of health. Cypher, can he still find an opportunity to finish Tox off?
Here's the jump pad. He knows there's going to be impending death. Cypher, perfect chance to be aggressive and finish off a very weakened Tox. What Tox, even though he's been sticking around a little bit too long in some of these fights and giving Cypher the opening to make the fight last a bit longer, it hasn't stopped Tox from being able to simply respawn, and he's hitting his shots wonderfully. He's making the right decision, but he needs a little bit more than that now, as we are about to hit sudden death. This is definitely going to come down to one frag at this stage. Maybe I spoke too soon. Tox was trying so hard to take that Mega and get in and out, but it looks like that one misplay at the very end has cost the entire map flee.
He just shouldn't have been there. He wasn't even really on the Mega. Here he goes. Final opportunity. That could have still been a frag.
I feel like I think that maybe took Cypher by surprise as well.
It definitely
Give us a couple of extra seconds and who knows what would have happened.
That can be 120 damage per shot quickly. The leading is Stag, but nope. Cypher just barely manages to hang on.
Well, Tox very almost did what he was doing the entire map, which was even if something didn't quite go right, the moment he respawns, it's, I'm going to take the weapon closest to me and just go straight in. You know, sometimes that can be considered quite a mistake, and something that's actually cost Tox quite a few frags historically. Didn't really happen in this map. In fact, it's what kind of stole the lead away from Cypher and caused him to have to climb that mountain all over again, but yeah, didn't work out at the very end.
No, that positioning over at Mega, especially Cypher just drops down with the heavy. He's got the weapons, he has just finished Tox off, and what does he have to work with? Essentially nothing, and then he's just trying to dodge for a few more seconds, hoping that the Mega Rudder will spawn underneath him, but nope, no such thing happened, and that way Cypher managed to clean things up.
I mean, it was unfortunate for Cypher before the map ended. There were a couple of situations where he desperately needed to land one of those rails. Like, yes, to give it its, fair enough, they're not easy shots to make, but Cypher is definitely capable of making those. He proved that in the map itself and throughout the course of Quake Pro League, but at the same time, there were a couple of missed rails that made us a little bit nervous that maybe, Tox was going to run away with this one. He had some fantastic fights, but Cypher's ability to recover and never lose his cool. This is where it all went wrong. That was such a disastrous shot. He just clips it in the head. That large champion problem. And so many of these fights where it's looking real good for Tox. But Cypher, never give up.
That was so much damage with the nail gun right there. I think Tox just assumed he had done a lot more damage than he actually did and just pushed through trying to extend his lead into basically the impossible for Cypher to get back from. But then he just ran into the spit combined with those heavy nail gun and that 20 damage pop that hurts you so much. And look at the shoddy damage. That really, really could have gone Tox's way still.
And then you look at, in the replay, you look at the angle of his jump where he specifically jumped towards the Mega. I almost wonder if he mistimed it by a second or two.
Could very well be.
Because we obviously had the benefit of being able to look at the timers on the top of the screen. It's just the way he jumps into it looked like he was planning to catch it on the way and then maybe even move towards. But the second he realized that both Cypher is there and it's not respawned, oh crap, I got to stick around for a bit longer. And that was all the time Cypher needed to just destroy.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like it was a questionable play. Even if he would have gotten the Mega, there's still a really good chance that he would have just died because Cypher is raining down the rockets at close range, has the better stack. Toxic had very little to work with in terms of weapons, so strange decision indeed, perhaps a bit too overconfident. But that being said and done, hopefully Toxic can reset once we move into the second map of this series, and that will of course be Blood Covenant.
This is where we were curious. There has been no crouch slide champion selected by Tox, something he's often quite famous for. But he's been able to more than hold his own on Blood Covenant before. He's going to get some opening damage here on Cypher. And the nails were hitting so sweet.
The LG wasn't half bad either, but Cypher somehow managing to lead and steer those nails at that distance. That's so impressive, and Toxic just danced right into them, unfortunately for him. This is a good rail though. Cypher has to give up his territory, has to move away and cannot stick around for Mega. Will he even be able to get heavy?
It almost looked like Cypher had a perfect read on... Oh, the rail looking good again. And now Toxic, full speed ahead, looking for another shot! Vertical! Almost completely at the bottom. I was going to say at the start, because the nails were so insanely clean, it kind of looked like he had a perfect read on when Tox was going to double jump.
Yeah.
Because when Doom double jumps and he's stuck in place for a little bit, that just allowed the nails to go pop, pop, pop over and over again. But enough of that! As before I can even finish talking about it, Tox has been able to actually take the lead. 2 frags to 1. And a Mega for his troubles.
Yep.
He's got the rail too, which is such an important weapon on this map. Looking to hit a shot. Ooh, just short of it. But Cypher fresh off the spawn. Tox is confident, but he has to watch out for the nails again! So much damage! Oh my word!
I like Tox's decision not to just go for heavy straight away, because that would be pretty risky, but just try and cut Cypher off, knowing that Cypher had nothing to work with in terms of weapons, but still, that nothing is what did it to him. The long-range nails into the machine gun, so powerful in the hands of Cypher.
You think you've got someone and they pull out the 9-inch nails and it's like, where did it all go wrong? Perfect LG! Looking to go for it 1v1, but Tox has just been hitting some fantastic shots so far. He has the rail again.
It should be against Quake rules for Tox to hit that much LG in that situation. That was just absolutely nasty, falling down, getting pinned against the wall, and still out-aiming Cypher, and now just adding on to it with that beautiful rail.
So much patience from Tox. He was so confident that Cypher was going to retreat near LG. He had that shot lined up 3 seconds ago before Cypher even moved in that direction. And now he's trying to head him off. Cypher going full speed ahead, tries so hard to shut down the heavy from spawning, and 2.5 minutes in, 5 frags. That is a lot to give up in a very short space of time. What can Toxic get from this? There's a bit of a delay in between Mega and Heavy, so if Tox is able to play his cards right, there's a chance for a full rotation to just keep that circuit running.
Was about to say, Toxic now has just under 10 seconds between the 2 major items, meaning that as you're watching right now, he takes Mega, and he's got plenty of time to get over to Heavy, but Cypher positioning himself in between his opponent and the item and landing a good rail that'll slow Tox down. Probably won't deter him from jumping onto it. Nope, the Swede gets out with the Heavy, Cypher landing 1 rail, but that's essentially already healed right back up.
I love that unique angle that Toxic was able to look for thanks to the double jump at the same time. He was getting that entry damage that got Cypher and kind of forced him away from the bridge, kind of hit that little back quarter, I suppose. I don't know what word to use to describe it, but Either way, it forced Cypher away. And with that 5-2 lead that Tox is currently sitting on, he's in a pretty sweet spot. He's maintained a nice level of control, and Cypher's been kind of burned a few times. That rail's going to shut him down. Tox actually choosing to be really aggressive. He's content that he can get the damage done first, but he's run out of rails. Now we have to double back, get the heavy, and finally collect it eventually. It's taken him quite a while because he wanted to get the damage first, but now he has no choice.
I somehow can't help but feel like this happens more to Tox than any other player. The click on the railgun or the rockets, I feel like it happens to him all that often. But look at this, Cypher, by managing to evade Toxic at the end there, made it so that he collected the mega health. Toxic prioritized chasing down his opponent over getting the heavy, and doing so essentially threw off his entire rotation. And right now, LG versus LG, Toxic actually on the losing side. That rail will even things out again, but Cypher actually looking pretty good right now.
Tox forced down their catacombs. Looks like Cypher's going to concede the heavy. You know, I think he was burnt quite early on, being a bit too aggressive to try and shut it down. And has no more real room to breathe in respect. We're just about to hit that 5-minute warning. And if you're 3 frags down, you can't really afford to make those crazy big bold plays to try and force your way onto light that might not work out, but he gets a wonderful read on when he's going to come through with the LG in hand already. Knowing that if we're near that area, it's probably going to be Doom and he's going to be double jumping, the LG's the perfect weapon for that.
Yeah, of course, because once you double jump, you're up in the air, floating essentially in place, and the LG can just push you around and do so much damage. And now Toxic really on the back foot, racing back towards that Mega, but there comes Cypher after rocket jumping up, looking for the rail. That would have been it, but unfortunately for him, just barely misses him, and Toxic secures the Mega as well as a small armor.
Yeah, Tox was thinking about the heavy himself actually, but the second he picked up that small health bubble and realized, hang on a minute, I'm still railable. Cypher's going to get the heavy first. Why would I even overstay my welcome here and give him a free shot if I'm definitely going to die from it? He can tank barely just 2 rails with the stack he's looking at, but he needs to get some armor. But he has no choice once more but to concede heavy. Knows it's a bit of a suicide mission. Waits for the rocket jump because he has that perfect read. Can't get the first one, but the second one at least is going to make Cypher a bit more tender as the fight towards Mega is going to break out. Tox has no immediate demand to try and force his way onto these yet, but Cypher going in with the aggression and some delicious tri-bolt to shut him down. He's out of rockets. Haven't heard the click yet, but we might be dawning on it.
That tri-bolt absolutely saved Tox's life right there. Cypher just had everything going for him, could have easily pounced on him, but the tri-bolt kept him at bay. Fortunately for Tox though, he might lose out on the next major item. Once again, Cypher, can he establish rotation? Not in the best position to make a push for this, looking for the rail, and won't find the angle. Tox back in it to win it.
Cypher was looking for it. He had the piercing sight activated. You know, he could perfectly see where Tox was at the time, but there is still that chunky delay in between the 2 items, and that's going to be the common theme until it... We'll see if there's even a fight near the heavy, but Tox being quite reserved. I think he's really starting to pay attention to the fact that, look, I've still got 3 frags in the lead. So even if he is taking these items, he's hitting some great rockets, even some tri-bolt. But these shots are able to keep Cypher at bay. That missed rail, though, is going to be that skeleton key for Cypher to finally start being a bit more aggressive. And now Tox has to try and deny this, get as much damage as possible, but now he's railable. Has to be very careful! Cypher ready for the angle before I could even finish saying that. And he gets the frag he's looking for. He's still behind, but this is an opening.
This is definitely Cypher's opportunity. Is he gonna rocket jump up? He might very well just take the fight to Tox right away, looking for the railgun instead. Nope. Actually, he's gotta be careful. Heavy will be going to Tox instead, pushing himself perhaps a little bit too far back. The LG is definitely more than decent. A little bit more will do it, but no!
Taste of your own medicine, Doctor!
Yeah, out comes the heavy nailgun Mega in 2 seconds. Toxic will surrender positioning, though. He knows he's 3 frags in the lead, 2.5 minutes left. He doesn't have to force anything right now, and he can just stay back, let Cypher play his game, and keep him at bay.
It feels quite brave of Tox to have stuck around there, too. You know, he knows that he's definitely being outgunned in this situation. He hasn't got the weapons that Cypher was currently sitting on, but somehow manages to find a way. Gets a perfect catch on the bridge, though, and the damage is real. Thank you very much, Piercing Sight. People always talk about the rail with Piercing Sight, but the LG's always just as prominent.
Cypher really not waiting more than a second before popping that piercing sight every single time. He's just, the moment he has it, he essentially uses it, except for when he knows exactly where Toxic is. And that makes it so unpredictable for Tox to anticipate and estimate when that ability is going to be used, that Cypher can have a constant amount of information coming his way when trying to tackle and trace down his opponent.
Tox has been able to work around it quite well. that piercing sight. Cool, a little bit of a funny angle, but the combo rocket into rail, making Tox way too weak to fight for this Mega. Cypher knows he's free to collect it happily as now. He's going to navigate towards bridge and just try and get some more information. It's one of the benefits in the matchup, right? Doomslayer is almost never going to use his Berserk. You pick Doomslayer for the double jump on this map, which kind of means that the piercing sight's always going to be available because there are no hourglasses for Tox to take because he's not able to take them.
Yeah, that's a huge part when you're going up against the Doom, is knowing that he can't really do much to deny hourglasses, and you will have your ability up basically all the time. Cypher's counting on that. Look at Tox, the dodge is beautiful. Cypher goes left, Tox goes right, over and over and over again, but Cypher, the pressure is on, he really has to make a move. He's gonna leave heavy up, and he's just gonna dive right in. He's gonna need to land a lot of damage right now.
I love the play though. Cypher, he actually jumped down, it looked like to bait Tox into using the jump pad, where he was already ready for that rocket angle.
Yeah.
He had the right read, but the rocket didn't quite connect. Tox was able to do exactly what he wanted, but there just was no damage there. Speaking of damage, that's gonna be significant.
He has to go for it. He has to go, yeah. Cypher can't just stick around any longer. LG, pretty good. Can he find the rail? Yes!
What? How did he hit that shot?
Excellent flick, going right up, taking down Tox. 20 seconds left on the clock. I think he's gonna hear the Doomslayer beneath him right now. Cypher turning around, missing the rail. Oh no, and Mega even goes to Tox.
Uh-oh.
He's got so much damage to do right now in just 10 seconds.
I don't actually think he can make the chase. He has no choice. Even if he hits an opening rail, there's going to be some cooldown period. Tox opts to run away, goes in for the rockets, but the rocket forces him off.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a map win for Toxic. Very, very hard fought. And what a map that was, Flea.
Yeah, 1-1. I mean, it's all gonna come down to the tiebreaker, the decider, and it even came down to the final few seconds. Again, this is the second map in a row that has been extremely close. Toxic definitely doing a whole lot better than he did back in Italy, but still, 1-1. Cypher can take it, Toxic can take it.
Well, what we already know is that this is not the series that we saw in Italy.
Yeah.
You know, it was very one-sided for Cypher when they collided at Lucca, the Stage 1 finals. But now it's a complete change of pace. And I feel like the MVP, yeah, that's why... Oh, it wasn't the read on the double jump like we once thought. It was just perfect reads on how he was going to try and chase it down. I don't think I've ever seen that much nail gun damage in such quick succession.
Now we're going to see some more of it soon. Toxic are going to hit that right back at him later.
There was a turning point, wasn't there? We'll keep an eye out for it.
Here we go. The nail was used so often compared to some of the other games. And here we go. Final few bullets will do it. This was an interesting matchup in terms of frags. We saw a lot of strange ones.
There were so many pivotal frags that looked like they could have led to something extremely significant. But, you know, Tox just down to moments like that where he knew where he was going to go. And he gets the fight here. But this was a moment that there was a certain point where it kind of looked like he was fresh off the spawn, and Tox chose to stick around heavy. He didn't have a lot of weapons to work with, but he had what he must have deemed as enough to take the fight. And there's a lot of confidence. There's one thing Tox has. When the fight is there, I think his confidence is like none other.
Yeah.
You know, whether it comes down to his decisions before the fight or after it, maybe he doesn't fully believe in it, but this wasn't one of those moments where, yeah, he sticks around and gets so much. Just look at Cypher's stack, it just deletes. That was that turning point where it all just started to go downhill for Cypher.
Yeah. Excellent effort towards the end, though, from Cypher to still make up most of the frag deficit right there. Toxic making a way for it right here, and then bam! Look at that flick! And then unfortunately, that rail, that could have changed a lot. But unfortunately, Cypher just didn't really have the stack to rocket jump up after him. Toxic steals the Mega and just runs down the clock. It's
always amazing, isn't it, when, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing and no one likes to hear it, but when you go down to the final moments of a map and it's like, if I just hit that one shot, you know, just how much of a snowball effect would have come from it afterwards, because maybe even then would have affected their movement. You know, if someone's panicking or someone's, you know, one map away, maybe that amplifies the chance they're going to, you know, miss a key and or jump, or however they might make a mistake that they normally wouldn't do, because Tox probably felt quite comfortable there. He knows the rail got missed, he has the internal cooldown of the rail in his head, he knows he's doomed, so he can double jump away, and you know, by the time that final fight broke out near rail, Cypher didn't have enough time. Even if he didn't get knocked away by that rocket that pushed him downwards, that gave him that real estate to win, I don't think he could have physically got the damage required because it just wasn't there before. And Toxic even still had the Berserk, right? Yes. Toxic could have easily just jumped across to bridge and then just turned the corner, headed into rockets and just run away. Run away with his fists out, yeah. Yeah, and Cypher would have been absolutely powerless to catch him. Well, that is going to open up now the importance of our final map, which, if memory serves me, should be Awoken with Ison and Galena. Another different one. It's going to be all about champions that have to micromanage. You know, it's going to be either the turret for Ison, it's going to be the totems for Galena, and Awoken, it's a very good map for that. Yeah, it's a map where the annoying champions that can just place obstacles down. You know, there's so much teleporter usage here, and you can use them to set up to try and take some of the important items. Tox, he's known for his aim, but I feel like the Galena and the stack, if he's able to get that cycle on deck, it's going to be quite difficult for Cypher.
Yeah, very important thing for Cypher to consider is not to let his opponent build up the
I'm
tree
sure we
totems.
say this every week.
We say this every single week. And every single time there's some players that can't quite manage it, but of course, Talk is cheap.
That
rail,
a roof.
yeah, almost sending him right off the map to begin with. Cypher just staying in, clinging to the edges of the map. And setting up, waiting for Toxic to show his face. That's a pretty good rocket to start with. And he's got the turret next to him, backing him up.
There's that 2 versus 1 factor. Tox now trying to fight his way towards Heavy, but he's got to be very careful. Cypher has the stack, and he's finally going to concede it. The question is, what does Tox do to recover? He tries to get rid of the turret, finally manages to do it. But now Cypher can be aggressive if he wants to.
That was actually a beautiful play from Cypher over at Heavy. Very often you see people just jump onto it just to get the item while their opponent is still raining down the damage, but Cypher was so patient and just LG Tox a few times until he didn't have the stack to show his face anymore. Taking a bad rail there though, Toxic managing to jump across Heavy.
Oh,
this could be going to Toxic. Yeah.
That's a good rocket though. Enough to force him away temporarily. We'll see if he can survive, though he has no shame going through the teleport because he knows it's going to be likely Toxic's running the other way. And once again, he's put behind... Oh, God! Turret! Weapons factory indeed.
Yeah, and more or less in the same spot as the turret was placed before. Toxic just unable to dodge the bullets as he turns the corner with less than 30 points of health. So lethal. And Cypher right now, he's not going to make the same mistake. He's not going to go through the little hole in the wall, but he's just going to immediately make his way over to Heavy and leave a little bit of a delay. So it's around 6 seconds between the items. This should be the start of something beautiful.
A little bit of a rail 1v1 breaking out. Cypher's able to delete one of the totems. It's so important on this map to just prevent her from getting that mega on demand. And he gets some rockets, kind of forcing Tox into a weird position, actually. Oh! Gets the perfect, and Tox doubles back. Cypher ready for it.
Yeah, Cypher just absolutely read him like an open book. Will lose out on the Mega, though, but the LG is murderous.
Oh my God, that rocket.
Yeah, nice little rocket to boot. That's a little bit of extra damage. Tox, surely you're not gonna jump for this one. And indeed, the sweet, actually. A sneaky rail in the back. Cypher vacates the area. Toxic's still in it. He's still doing the damage, and he's got to keep that up.
It's what both of these players have been able to do, is just stick on each other like, you know, watch each other like a hawk. It looks like when someone has an opening, or even something that resembles some free space, it's only there for a few seconds, and then the player that's behind is immediately on them. Yeah. Cypher now behind, forced to retreat near Banana just to try and get some of these light pickups.
Bit of a misplay from Cypher trying to go for that small health bubble in that little cubby, because that's such a dangerous place to be in. And by the time he managed to pick up the health bubble and get right back out, Toxic was just raining down the damage.
Oh, the rocket jump!
Oh, that's a lot of damage, but Tox treads the needle. Surely he could have only seen Cypher for a fraction of a second. But that's enough for the Terminator to line up the shot and pull the trigger.
It's just what I just talked about, this idea of someone that looks like they might be behind, that just have this uncanny ability to instantly turn it around with just very calculated aggression. It's rarely not worked. In all 3 of these maps, when one of these 2 players has decided, right, it's time to go in, it's mostly worked out. But now Tox still has got some work to do, though. Cypher is in the lead with 1 frag. 1 frag may not mean a huge amount on Awoken, but a lead's a lead. But it has put Cypher behind. These rails have been very troublesome for him.
Cypher picking positioning over stack right there. Rocket jumping out of the room, but he's still on Heavy. Toxic, that's free real estate. Cypher, I feel like he dropped down perhaps a little bit too eagerly after Rocket jumping right up to Railgun, and now Toxic full control. Very nice spread on the items, and things are tied up 2-2.
With Cypher spawning on the opposite end of the map, that totem might be somewhat of a fallback for Toxic, because it's going to be under maybe special circumstances that Cypher's going to be forced towards Rail. Looks like it might change now, but he's got the Mega in sight. He's able to collect, but that missed rail might be punished, and it will! Cypher brings himself back onto the board. We've been talking about the benefit that a hit rail can do, but the disastrous effects of a missed rail were just as apparent.
When you're still in range, that cooldown, I mean, it's not very long, but it feels like an eternity when you're in Tox's position, and you just have to sit there and wait and try and dodge helplessly while your opponent is blasting you with that lightning gun. And that's exactly what allowed Cypher to turn things around, collect himself a mega health, and actually get a frag.
Well, that turret didn't do a lot of damage, but it gave Cypher valuable information. He had a rough idea of where Tox was trying to hit some of that entry rocket stuff near the light. Here comes the fight. Cypher has got the stack, and he's going to use it to easily take that fight in his favor. He's got a 2-frag lead now, 5 minutes left of this final map.
Beautiful LG from Cypher in that engagement. We always give Tox so much credit for his lightning gun, but we cannot underestimate just how good the others like Cypher are. Tox stuck in a bit of a bad position. I'm surprised that Cypher didn't try to pressure harder right there. Gonna get the handyman medal right there. So far, I do feel like Cypher has gotten more utility out of his deployable than the opponent did. I feel like Tox, his totems really haven't been helping him all that much compared to Cypher, who's been doing quite a bit of damage. And look at that. Doesn't even have to switch to the rail since he didn't have one, but that heavy machine gun, 15 damage, a pop zoomed in. That's gonna melt your stack just the same.
It's always that tricky decision. You know he's going to take the heavy. Do you run away and try and not concede a frag and give him massive control with the huge stack he's working on, or do you stick around and try and whittle it down some? That was the choice Tox chose to make, and he did have to give up another frag for it. That's more information.
Yep, and that information helps you line up the shot perfectly. Cypher will collect the heavy. I think he must have spotted the totem right there. Because Toxic right now is at least 2 of them up on the playing field. Cypher, you gotta start doing something quickly. Okay.
Couple of rockets
to get the frag, yeah.
Closer rockets actually would have been a lot worse for Cypher there. I wasn't so convinced that was a guaranteed frag until the very end.
Not.
Oh, perfect spawn for Cypher to put on the pressure though. Tox again forced onto the back foot, and there's no armor in sight. That rail is a disastrous one, but thanks to the totems, it did let him tank one more shot. I don't think it's going to keep him alive any longer. Tox has to be very careful indeed.
Ah, finally. I was about to say Cypher has just missed. Like, he's passed those totems in the past, but just couldn't catch a glimpse of them. And there we go. The damage coming out. Toxic right now really on the back foot. 3 minutes to go and 4 frags behind. Cypher really starting to pull away.
Quite the deficit, with not a lot of time left on the map to go.
Oh.
Another LG frag. Tox is now forced into that position no one wants to be in, which is you have to just force the issue now. You haven't got time. You have to just try and push in, try and score a frag as fast as possible, and kind of pray that you can snowball it, because he is running out of time here. A Cypher preying on that. And he isn't even interested in taking the Mega. Almost forces Toxic back, saying, no, never mind, mate, you take it.
Giving his opponent one more lifeline as we're about to enter the final 2 minutes of the match. And look at the rockets! Oh! Combo kill indeed. Rocket to the face, and then the rail to finish it all off. Toxic, what can you even do against such an onslaught coming out of the Belarusian player?
Well, he's going full speed ahead. Gets the suicide. Not that it really matters. That was either going to be a frag for Tox or -1 frag for Cypher, but 2 minutes to get 6. I mean, if he goes as fast as he possibly can, we'll keep a close eye on it. But oh no, he's missing the shots. He's going in, another frag. But the danger is, he took a lot more damage than I think he wanted to. You know? So trying to get the momentum and get the refrags, if you're on death's door the second they spawn, especially near LG room, that's actually best case scenario for Cypher, because he can simply respawn and finish it. No! Get some shotgun damage, but not enough. That was the only thing that resembled a chance left to win that fight, and it doesn't go in his favor. Tox gets another one, but
I mean, it's still doable. Awoken, it's a small WAP. Things can change so quickly. Here we go. Tox gonna find him again. The shot, he has to be huge right there. Here we go.
Full speed ahead, Tox. Don't take your foot off the gas.
He needs some more of those totems, because that can help him so much, right? When he's trying to chase down your opponent and you've got that extra heal in your pocket, that can be crucial. It can make the difference. But here, Cypher tactically positioning himself near the choke point. Toxic has no choice but to push through.
Watch out for the totem on the turret underneath. God, why do I always get tongue twisted when it's 2 of these champions? Watch out for it!
Mega will be going to Tox though, but that's a lot of time burned by Cypher.
He's wasting a lot of it,
even find his opponent still?
It's taking so long for him to even see Cypher that, yep, this game just ended, for sure. He wasted a wonderful amount of time, the perfect amount of time to make it unwinnable, and then just a rude little rail for the final nail in the coffin. But overall, Fleet, I can definitely safely say I enjoyed this series a lot.
As did I. Toxic, I mean, he fought with revitalized energy. I feel like this is a different Tox than what we saw back in Italy. A lot more confident, hitting his shots. And I mean, these have been pretty close games up until Awoken, right? Came down to the final frag in map 1, came down to the final frag in map 2. Right now, Cypher does, of course, pull away in the final deciding one, but still, Toxic put in a good effort.
I feel like if you're Tox in this situation, ultimately, yes, you lost. It's going to be a 2-1 to Cypher, but you have to automatically just compare results. You know, this is a player that you had quite a memorable match against at the Stage 1 finals, and now there's been a decent amount of time in between then where, you know, you've got the opportunity to shape up a little bit more yourself. So you just compare your results against them. This was a far better outcome than what we saw before, and if you're Toxed, I think there's a lot to take away from that there is progress there, and there's a lot of progress that's been made, and he can still hold his head high after that.
Yeah. And I mean, for Cypher, he's been doing well, but so far out of his 3 games in Stage 2, he's only managed to win 1. So being able to add Toxic to that list of players that he managed to defeat, Toxic is of course a top competitor, no one will ever doubt that, and this being more of a round-robin style tournament for Stage 2 means that Cypher doesn't have to face him down again, so of course this is a secured win, and that means that Toxic can't really come back from that going up against Cypher.
That's why I mentioned that was such a good shot. And you're right, he had like barely any time to really land that shot, especially seeing it was the combination of not only having to hit the shot, but the fact that you yourself are moving pretty fast at the same time. So many layers, which makes Toxic the execution god. But at the same time, Cypher, it's just natural talent, isn't it? It's just decision making. It's the fact that his aim is almost always there. And it just felt like at no point was he ever so far behind it was impossible. You know, there was always a fighting chance, and there's a lot of spirit in the way Cypher plays.
I mean, that's one of the things that they've always been saying about Cypher. He is one of the most talented Quake players in history. Even back in the days of Quake Live, when you had the big rivalry between Cypher on the one hand and Rafa on the other, people were always saying like, Rafa's got the brains, right? He's 5 steps ahead, but Cypher, he's got such an amount of raw talent and feel for the game that he can make these things happen when he really sometimes shouldn't. So it's really good to see him back at the top of his game, kicking ass.
It was a game of 2 fan favourites, and they absolutely delivered. Thank you very much to both of these players, actually, for giving us such a good show. And that final shot, just to be a rude little rail that says, by the way, mate, that map is mine. By the way, Flea, what do you get if you cross Santa with a duck?
Why don't you tell me?
A Christmas quacker. They have these have terrible. It's by design. They've got really awful jokes. And we've got 2 more of these, which we'll tactically save.
Laughs guaranteed for chat.
Yeah. Plenty of laughs to go around. But what we also have plenty of to go around is a bunch more kick-ass Quake Champions matches. We're going to go for a quick break and set up our next one of the day. This is week number 5 of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. Don't go anywhere.